David and Charles take on Farouk, while Syd and the Kerrys fight off the Time Eaters, and Switch steps into her own. It is a viscerally and intellectually satisfying final chapter into Noah Hawley's brilliant and mind-bending entry into the X-Men universe. It is Legion's series finale, Chapter 27. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review, our last review, of Legion. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers ahead, and as always, do want to remind you about our quick jump index system. Just take a look down in the description below. We'll have this entire review coded out, titleized, time-coded. You can enter into the fourth dimension yourself. Become your own time god. Watch the end of the review first. Watch the beginning last. Watch it in any order you'd like. So, yes. Very sad. I have to say, really, I had a bit of sadness this evening when I was switching on this show. And certainly continued with the credits are thrown out. This is the end. This is beginning. This is the end. As all things must. I mean, really, it was very clear from the beginning, we're not getting any more of this. And as I said, very sad on multiple levels. This has been an amazing show. Mind-bending, unique in its form of storytelling, visual storytelling, colors, mixing in music, incredible acting, scenes that you have to watch and rewatch because there's like so many layers into each shot. You know you're missing something. It has been an incredible journey. Season 1 was, to me, a perfect season for a show. Had an entire journey squeezed in to 8 episodes. Season 2, also very good. A little different, a little skewed, expanding storytelling. Again, a lot of unexpected directions. And now wrapping things up in by a third season. From one standpoint, it's nice that the show is always able to end on its own 2 feet, on its own decisions. That it can complete the story that it wants to tell. And deciding to end your show when you want it to, I think can be a good thing. It certainly helps keep things from being dragged out too long. One thing for sure that we get out of this is there really aren't filler episodes. Like I said, Season 2 was a little bit longer. I think there are 1 or 2 that maybe could have squeezed together, maybe went on a little more. But that's such a minor critique for a show of this quality. And then even this season, so much storytelling going on, so much of an arc. There was so much to wrap up in this one episode. And they did it brilliantly. They did it in a manner of giving us, in some ways, what we want to see. We want to see the big battle. We want to see David standing up. We want to see Farouk defeated. And yet it also gives us a very unexpected solution that is better in many ways. One, because we're not expecting it, but it really delivers on the promise of where they're going. This isn't just a battle of punches. This is, and always has been, an intellectual journey. It's about evolution. And that was really just a preeminent theme throughout this episode. Not being who you were, but being what you can be. It's what David was talking about with the whole opening, time travel chapter 0. And time travel is not about changing who you are. It's about eradicating who you are and allowing you to become the next thing, to become something else. It's that evolution. Your past doesn't define who you're going to be, but it can be a good indicator. So sometimes you really got to change and wipe all that out. You have to become something else. And from David, from Syd, from Switch, from Farouk, everybody evolved. And that is why the show was able to end really on an incredible high note. So, of course, the centerpiece of this episode really is the battle against Farouk. Charles and David versus Farouk. Father and son versus the Shadow King. And it's kind of again, they did a brilliant way of dealing with this encounter. Because, I mean, first off, we've got David really kind of enjoying, he's got this father relationship there. And we get that moment where he's kind of teaching his dad how to create weapons out of his mind. I mean, I guess in some ways literally pulling it out of his mind. You know, David's got the big old spiked flail and Charles has a bullet. Tiny thing, of course, but good, very powerful, for sure. But it's that moment where David's like, you know, I like this. Us. You know, I mean, he's really feeling he is getting what it is that this whole adventure has been about for him. Reuniting with his father, becoming a family again. But when we have the entry of both Farouks, it really does allow them to play with the actual solution. And again, give us that both viscerally and intellectually satisfying evolution of this fight. Because when we have the younger David pairing off against the younger Farouk, there's sort of a perfect element to it. This is David fighting literally the person in that frame of time who did come over and take over his body. He's fighting the invader kind of form of Farouk, not so much of the older one. And the battle that we have there is a lot more of that visceral expectation that we've wanted. We want the throwdown. We want the punch down. We want David defeating Farouk. That's what we want to see in this. This is sort of what is built up. And they deliver with this in really, again, I think sort of fan service fashion. Just that whole spade off where when Farouk gets pulled into David's mind room with all of the doors, and he's just like, the problem is you think that this is just a fight between you and that this is a fight between us alone, you and me. But we are not alone because I am Legion. I mean, again, really that full entry into self that we have seen this season of David as Legion, the multiple versions of himself, all focused against this one monster. It's a beautiful setup. Unfortunately, from that standpoint, Legion still feels the need to attack slowly, one at a time, and to yell before the attack. It is well known that yelling "sneak attack" kind of defeats the whole purpose of a sneak attack. And that was the one thing with this scene. And again, brilliant. We are seeing, you know, each form of himself come out and attack. And it does start off with, again, with that one-on-one, enough for each of Farouk to come in. But that doesn't last long, and I do appreciate that, because those first few moments I was like, I am Legion, and I will slowly attack you one at a time to be sure you can defeat each advancing form of myself. And yell, want to be sure that you don't miss me coming at you. But does very quickly lead to that overwhelming force, which is perfect for David, that is perfect for Legion. That is how he should fight. But he is also up against the Shadow King, and Farouk is no sloth, easily defeated fool. He knows how to get to David, and of course that's been Farouk's whole thing, is he is the tactician. He is smarter. He knows how to find the weak points. So when he throws him off and wraps him all up, how does he hit onto him? How does he break him down? By David's ultimate need of love. Certainly a recurring theme throughout this entire season. I'm a good person and I deserve to be loved. No, you don't. You were abandoned by your parents. Your mother didn't love you at all. And that is sort of, the effects of abandonment really are a consistent theme through this episode, and seeing the effects that it has, because all of our main people have been abandoned. David, obviously, the parents left him, put him up for adoption, left him with cousins, uncles, brothers there, not raised by his parents. We have Switch, also kind of abandoned herself, can't even physically contact her dad. All the communication is through a TV set. Everything she is dealing through is a struggle because she doesn't have that support mechanism. Syd, in some ways, also abandoned. While she did have her mom, her inability to touch and interact with the world kind of kept everything separated. So there's a lot of abandonment issues with all of our main characters right here. And in some ways, all of their flaws, all of the dangers that they've caused, all of the mistakes that they have made, have been a result of not having that emotional support system. You know, Syd lashes out, Switch is looking for David and any sort of love and connectivity because she can't get it with her dad. And of course, only way of learning anything seems to be through her headphone recordings, which do seem to be from her dad, I believe, as everything all sort of plays itself out. And of course, David, that's his whole point of the mission that he wants to, is to try and fight off Farouk so that he can have a normal raised childhood, so he can unbecome who he is. And that whole struggle with David is our Syd of the Week for this week, and that is the beautiful rendition of Pink Floyd's Mother from the Wall album. I am a huge Pink Floyd fan. Got me through a lot of dark times in my life. And The Wall specifically, an amazing album, a great movie. Seriously, a brilliant combination of music and storytelling and visual play. And we can see how that has influenced so much of Noah Hawley's creation in Legion. I mean, Syd is named after Syd Barrett, the original guitarist for Pink Floyd, who was a little nuts and then was replaced by David Gilmour afterwards, which, honestly, it was the Gilmore Waters era that really was their kind of biggest implement. But that's musical history. That's not what we're trying to get into here. But the song itself, Mother, in Pink Floyd is really more of a cynical, dark story of everything that an overprotective, overbearing, domineering mother figure can have on a child. Here, they really twist it around, because what we're seeing is David's rendition singing about the questions of what he would do with having a mom. What are the problems that he would have? What is the lack of connectivity that he has because he didn't have a mom with him? Mom, would they do this? Would a girl, would she be good enough? Were they going to drop the bomb? I mean, all of these questions that a child could ask a mom to try and find some answers. And then beautifully paired with his mom actually singing with him. Again, it points where in The Wall, in Pink Floyd's original version, is more of that cynical, domineering, controlling. Here, it's Gabrielle trying to be mom, trying to be there for him. It is a promise. Much like Syd told Gabrielle, love him. That is your job. That's what happens throughout this whole song. It's David's reflecting on not being loved and the questions that he would ask and the mistakes that he believed that he would make without having the structure. And then beautifully followed in with Gabrielle stepping in saying, no, I will be there for you. I'll stay up until you get home. I'll check out all of your girls for you. I'll keep all of the bad ones away. I will be there. I will love you. It is a brilliant switch of its original intent into something exactly the opposite, paired with, again, beautiful visual storytelling. When we get into the guitar solo, it sort of blows out and we get the fights of David's personalities onwards himself. That's all of his doubts and his fears conflicting there, piled up against his mom, and connecting with him. I mean, again, it's just visually, all of these moments are telling such a beautiful story. And usually it is the musical song breaks, while enjoyable, are not always my favorite points of a show. And here, exactly the opposite, because it does perfectly encapsulate David's internal struggle. I am not loved. And his mom connects, yes, you are. And we see that entire arc as they play out, surprisingly, the entire song, which I wasn't expecting. And at the end, it's David waking up, realizing that he is loved, that his mother does love him, would be there for him, and that gives him exactly what he's been looking for this entire time, and of course, the strength to throw off Farouk like an old jacket, quite literally, visually, as we saw, and turn the tables on him. So while that delivered our visceral satisfaction, David defeating the Shadow King overcoming his doubts, turning the tables on him. With Charles and older Farouk, we get our intellectual satisfaction by finding a different way. And I think that it was brilliant that we have these two pairing off, because again, while David and younger Farouk are kind of the more emotional, reactive, looking for a fight type of individuals, Charles and the older Farouk, they've got experience, they got wisdom, they got patience. And it was a brilliant way of Farouk kind of turning things around on Charles right there, because of course Charles brings up he's learning how to fight. Again, it's the first lesson. He doesn't know how to do these things yet. He hasn't dived into it. So coming with a bullet, yeah, maybe it's a little basic. And I love how Farouk does that. Is here we are in this space where you can create anything. The only limitations are the bounds of your own imagination. And you come up with this? Or a knife? It's like, how disappointing. Shouldn't we do something else? And what does he pull out? A beer. Well, 2 beers. That's what it looked like, at least. Little bottles, drinks. Point being, let's sit down and have a drink and discuss it. Not the direction at all was expecting any of this to go. But like I said, ultimately so much more satisfying, because we are seeing evolution. And that's the other thing that we are catching. The effects of abandonment on people, and evolution of character, of self. That you can become something that you weren't. That you can become more than you were. Who you were doesn't necessarily determine who you're going to be, but it is a good indication. But experience allows us to make all of those changes. And the fact that we have Charles and Farouk talking things out. Farouk especially, a big change of character. That he hasn't come to fight David. He's come to aid him. He has spent so many years inside of David's head, he can't hate him anymore. That was such a brilliant line by Charles there too. It's hard to hate somebody that you know. And it is. All hate's like that. Racism, prejudice, you do it against people you don't know. Faceless figures that have no name and no person. It's hard to hate a person that's right in front of you. I mean, if they're a dick. Of course, people can give you reasons. But it's hard to assign hate onto that when you realize that most people are just like you. And for Farouk, that has spent David's entire life pretty much in his head, that he's grown to love the boy. He wants to do better. And it really changes the whole past 2 seasons of what we've really seen with Farouk, or at least all of this season especially, that there's a whole different motivation for him. Now, in some ways, I have to say, that is sort of a jump, because 2 seasons ago, he was the devil with the yellow eyes, messing with David and taking over and dominating Lenny, and then he had the whole Oliver thing last, and torturing, killing. I mean, Farouk's not necessarily a great guy. But I think he sees that there is something more to be done. And I love the fact that they kind of sit down and talk this out. That, hey, there is another way to do this. Which is important, because all that David's going to do is go and smash Farouk's head in, which I thought that he had already done by the time we got into all of these scenes. But no, that there's an alternate direction to go. And the fact that this is a better one for them, it saves David from any further dark evolution of his character and gives him a chance to choose to be something different, not be caught into old patterns, desires, hate, retribution, revenge. What is it that Charles tells him? This is not a war. This wasn't your war. You were thrown into this. Let me be something different. Let me be there for you. Let us create a world that is different. And I think that's really the breakthrough that we have. We got our visceral fight between Farouk and David, and here we found a better solution. That learning to live with each other, much better way to go. Now, of course, David can easily help make that choice. He is getting the relationship that he wanted. He's getting the love of his father, the opportunity to have a different life. Kind of easier for him to make that choice. For younger Farouk, not quite the same until he sees where older Farouk is coming from. Where we did another beautiful and brilliant section of downloading memories and experience. We had this before with David giving Dad the cake to show him everything, catch him up on everything that he had missed. With Farouk, they do it with the glasses. A little more in character in time. But this was, again, another just brilliant visual and acting combination right here. The fact that we're caught and we're just seeing that projected scenes, all of these past scenes, all of the audio coming over of each of these individual moments as we go through the entire 2-3 seasons of this show. Stuck, completely focused on Farouk's face. This is brilliant acting right here because we saw every evolution of self, of seeing where he was going, each act, how it affected him, the highs, the lows, the hopes, the fears, as each moment progressed, as the wisdom download came into him. Just, again, I'm not even going to say simple because I haven't seen this before outside of the cake bit too. But it was just a perfect way of transitioning this character, really showing the larger breadth and kind of like letting us take that journey with him and watching it. It's not like he was just told and he became a self. We saw in that minute, 2 minutes right there, while that whole download bit was going on, that whole section of storytelling, we saw that entire evolution to who Farouk was, to who he became, happen right in front of us. Not only just from the show clips and the audio, but really seeing it in the actor's face. And it was just brilliant, beautiful bit of storytelling. They layer stuff so well in this show. It's another reason I'm going to miss it so much. Now, the Syd and Kerry stuff was pretty much the most straightforward part of this storytelling. Defend baby David, defend Gabriel from the onslaught of the Time Eaters. But again, beautifully visually done. I love the little time hiccups we get, the repeating moments as each bit of time is slowly being consumed and having to repeat things. Small little changes go on, everyone out of syncopation. It was just, again, from a visual standpoint, just really intense and cool. Kerry's whole fight in this, again, also brilliant. Loved the idea of the two Kerrys coming together. The way to confuse the Time Eaters is have somebody that has more time in them that they should. Gives them a lot to consume before actually taking out Kerry. Because, of course, as female Kerry has been inside of male Kerry, she has unused time effectively stored up in her. She hasn't aged the same as the other Kerry has, because she only ages when she's outside of him. So the fact that they could sort of combine and use that power to fight off the Time Eaters, that the Time Eaters' attacks and assaults are going to take pieces of Kerry, of course, but she has so much stored up that it's confusing, it's hard. Which one do you get? There's two people there and one with all this extra time. And again, it was just sort of a beautiful way of showing an advantage and using these two characters in a really unexpected way. Beautiful fight sequences. I mean, all of Kerry's bit. There's nothing more beautiful than like your last fight. How much she loves her job as she's going. I mean, really enjoying eating up this last bit of time. No real pun intended actually there. Enjoying it as much as possible. And of course, the effects on her is, as the Time Eaters take that unused time, she ages also, until she is ultimately pretty much the same age as her twin brother Kerry. So there was sort of a great, cool storyline going on in there. For Syd, really, it's just about protecting. It's connecting with Gabriel. It's telling the story. She's playing her role just by being there. Really, most of her stuff happened with the later on connection after everything sort of got sorted out, the way of, well, her just acknowledgement of necessary of the importance of self. And again, I'll get there in just a minute. But I think that it was just a very cool kind of tame, but like I said, very, very straightforward in its storytelling. It was fighting off the monsters. You fight off the monsters while everything else goes on. And then we get our cool wrap-up. And of course, that cool wrap-up is delivered via our wonderful Switch, who has her own bit of evolution occurring throughout this episode. Really, again, seeing her at the beginning all messed up with the face, the mouth, the teeth, and just was not in good shape. And certainly once it seemed that one of the Farouks was getting killed, that seemed to have an even larger effect on time, literally splitting everything in half. What's a time traveler supposed to do to protect yourself? One thing you can, you jump into the time corridors and lose all the rest of your teeth. That was definitely a scary moment. As she loses her teeth, she's weak, it's all over with. The Time Eaters are closing in, a final surrender of self. Which, of course, is exactly what she needed to do to grow up. And that was, again, a very cool moment of seeing Switch become who it is that she should be. The idea that all this time, the losing of her teeth is her losing her baby teeth. That she is just doing the practice, the basics in order to become who she is. All that suffering, all of that feeling of loss was only just the early stages of her becoming who she ultimately was to be, which is, of course, a fourth dimensional creature with all of access to existence and time. She is time, effectively, as she tells Syd later on. So again, just sort of a cool bit, a reawakening of self, an evolution, a connection with her parents, and showing how much stronger, how much better she can be having that support structure. Is it really father and daughter? What are those meaning to timeless existence beings? We'll just call them that for now. It makes it so much easier. And just sort of a great, I love the whole evolution. I love the bit of self. Even using, again, music as they have done so well to transition from her giving up and surrendering to the Time Eaters to then that same music turned around as the dad just sort of grabs her hand and pulls her up and welcomes into her new space. It was just a wonderful bit of storytelling and a great evolution for this character, who is, before she moves on, willing to come back and rein in those loose little time cats and try and settle out the world, save the world. But it was, again, kind of everybody together. David with his change, with his dad becoming something else, allowing that something else to be there, buying enough, Syd and Kerry buying enough time from the Time Eaters in order for Switch to finish her evolution and sort of straighten everything else. So everybody sort of played their role, and the fact that Switch can then come back into Kerry to Syd and give her that ultimate gift. I mean, we have Syd, who is now acknowledging in order to complete their mission, everybody in order to complete their mission is going to not die, erase themselves as they are now in order for them to become who they could be. So it's an interesting sort of goal there. And the fact that Switch was able, or Time, was able to give to Syd the gift of the universe acknowledges you. You don't know where you are. If you have a place, you are important. You served a role. You will be remembered. You have served in the evolution of the universe. Really? Can you ask for more than that? A little thanks and acknowledgement from the universe for your own existence? I think that was sort of a really nice way of wrapping things up there. And also even complimenting Time. I like your jumper. Thank you. It's just cute little moments. And allowing Syd to now face what is to come with a little piece, which gave us, honestly, just a lovely final moment between Syd and David. So in the end, David really accomplished what he did to set out, and in a way, a bigger way than what he wanted, because his interest this whole time was to stop Farouk, to save him from being taken over as a kid. But what he really earned out of this is a greater respect for the world around him, even though his form of existence is about to end. Certainly shows his father the possibility. Farouk even evolving onto to a new form of self. I mean, maybe not perfect. I mean, his goodbye to David wasn't the best. Thank you. When you grow up and be, what are you going to do? I'm going to be a baby, then be a child, and then become a man. I mean, I think that's just a fair way of looking forward for your life. What do you want to do? I want to grow up and be loved in a family. Maybe not go and visit Farouk then, so they can go and take over the world. He didn't seem to grab onto that idea. Like I said, so maybe Farouk hasn't completely changed yet. It's an evolution part, but he's on the road. And Charles is definitely going to be back, willing to stick with his mom, to grow up. No more traveling. Become a teacher. Love that, Professor Xavier. And sort of fix that whole bit there. So, I mean, yes, David defeated Farouk and saved himself, but he didn't. They found a different way. And a satisfying way, I think, for all. Farouk maybe becoming a little bit more for himself. Charles really appreciating his family. His wife acknowledging, hey, I couldn't do this by yourself, which is why in the old life when Charles did leave, Gabrielle had to give David up. She couldn't do him by himself. And yes, maybe David does have some potential mental issues, but now he's going to have the foundation and family in order for things to be different. So everybody's life will be different. And maybe nobody will ever meet, which is where we get that kind of final moment between Syd and David, which I think was very nice. There was an acknowledgement there of an appreciation of the history they had, but not necessarily... Nobody said, hey, I hope in the next life I run into you, which I think was nice. I think that it was better to leave this as to whatever the world's going to be, the world is going to be. We know from what Switch told Syd that she's going to be the best version of herself. And in some ways, I think that's what we expect to see out of every character. We're going to have the two Kerrys now re-experiencing their life. How much different that's going to be, because David wasn't really encountering until later on in life. It'll be the same, but maybe new potentials. Who knows what sort of psychic remnants will be allowed within the time stream there. But David's not going to be crazy. He's not going to go to Clockwork. He's probably not going to run into Syd. They'll have their own different, separate lives. Though, if, Charles' School for Gifted Children do start up, perhaps that might be where Syd goes. So I think they left it really nicely there. Again, not a sappy, we'll be together in another life kind of thing, but just sort of an appreciation of what they accomplished and the positiveness of what is to become. Because even though they're about to fade out of existence, there is something greater they can aspire for. They did see the good, the plus, the love, the family that they're going to each be able to grow up with now and become, again, the best versions of themselves. So I think it was a sweet way of sort of ending this whole bit with the two of them acknowledging their moments, even Syd saying, I didn't do it for you, I did it for him. Perfect. And then just sort of fading away. And then we get the final pan down to the little baby, and we start with the Jack song, which is how the whole series started. Perfect way to bring things all the way around, but also know that there are new beginnings to come. All right, just a couple of small things, lines really that sort of caught my attention. When Farouk is talking with Charles, and he tells him that he has not come back to fight David, but to aid him. He says something right before then, I am tired of the churn. Which, of course, the crazy mix-up aspect of life, true. But the churn is also a term used in The Expanse. It's what Amos used to describe the sort of mess-up expansion of life. The same description also. So it was sort of funny. So as Farouk is talking about the churn, it automatically makes me think of Amos and The Expanse. With season 4 coming back at the end of this year on Amazon. So excited. Anyway, I just love when we have, like, inner show connections. Kerry, in the midst of her fight against the Time Cats as she begins to age. Love the little discussion between her and her brother Kerry. What's going on? It's just a little arthritis. I'm still deadly. That's awesome, man. Just because you're getting older doesn't make you weaker. Makes you more wisdom, more experienced with more wisdom. That's how that word goes. Oh, and speaking of wisdom, the fact that Switch lost her baby teeth, those were the teeth that were coming out, replaced by wisdom teeth and knowledge of the time stream and what time means and everything. It is an ocean, not a river, more than one person to be able to control. Just, again, a cool little bit. And of course, Charles's words to his son as David is concerned, what, we're just going to let the Farouks go? We're just going to take them at their word? We're telepaths. We don't have to take anyone at their word. And with that, I think we can finally take this show to a close. As I said at the top, I'm very sad that this show is going to be gone. It was amazing. It was astounding. It was a treat to look forward to for the past couple of years. And now that it's not going to be here, I'm bummed out. I'm definitely going to be looking to see what Dan Stevens going to be doing next. I cannot wait for Noah Hawley's next bit. I think he's got a final season 4 for Fargo up in mind, so that should be hitting FX over the next year or so whenever they get around to actually shooting it. And I have to say, I really do hope that he gets to tell his Doctor Doom story, or at least I'd like to find out what kind of Doctor Doom story he was going to say, because this was a brilliant series, amazingly well done, definitely a creative just joy to experience, and as I said, I am sad to see it go. I am glad that they were able to really finish this tale and do it right and do it in a way that was hopeful and unexpected, that they were still able to bring out a real positive end to a very crazy show that definitely had a whole lot of darkness dwelling around within it. So, that's it. Legion is now done. I hope you guys enjoyed this series as much as I did. I really appreciate you guys watching this review. I love hearing all of your comments, all of your thoughts. Even if I can't answer all of them, I do read them. My life's a little crazy right now, but I've really enjoyed spending this last season with all of you. It means a lot to me to be able to, look, just sharing this show with all of you. That's what this is all about. This is why I like to do this. So thank you so much for taking your time and spending a little bit of it with me. So, as usual, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, comments, what you guys think of the final episode. Did it satisfy you? Did it leave you wanting? Did you want it to go in a different direction? Please let me know what you guys are thinking. Throw those down in the description below, or section below for comments right below the description. It's late. I'm losing my word skills. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. I know that we're ending here, but we've got final season of Preacher going on right now. We'll have Walking Dead coming up in October. And 2 big things this week. Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing a big Season 6 discussion of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., talking about the season, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we want to see going forward, and of course, we're going to be diving into the discussion of Coulson as well. So that's going to be this Wednesday night, live streaming 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then the next day, Thursday, I'm going to be over at Enchantment of Eternity with Mark. We're going to be talking seasons 3 and 4 of Lost, which I've been really enjoying diving back into. So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. discussion Wednesday, Lost discussion Thursday. That's going to be on Enchantment of Eternity. I will throw links down in the description as soon as I get them. So, a lot of stuff going on. You don't want to miss any of it. You won't if you're a subscriber. Do that by clicking this button right here. And we'll go ahead and throw up our latest couple of reviews right here for you to check out. So, thanks again. That's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.